Hey, hello everybody. Thanks for being patient here. We had a little bit of technical difficulties getting this off, but it looks like everything's straight now. So, welcome to June's webinar. This one's going to be on reprogramming. So, one of the things that we've done in previous webinars and previous months is ask you guys, what you want to, hear topics on. And in this month's, we're going to answer some of those questions that you had, which was reprogramming modules. When it comes to modern vehicles, a lot of repairs are done. I was reading somewhere recently that over 40% of repairs now are done using software updates for modules. And a lot of this stuff is basically because parameters change, right? When manufacturers, OEMs design vehicles, they manufacture with a certain parameter range, right? And what happens as the vehicle ages, it gets 60, 70, 80,000 miles on it. Sometimes those parameters become too narrow, yet there's not necessarily a problem with the car. It's just normal wear and tear. And we need to do some reprogramming. And there's other issues that happen out there where there are things that have to be repaired, but reprogramming is huge. And if you're not doing it, you're losing out on revenue, right? There is a poll question up there, and we'd love to hear you guys' feedback, right? If you're doing programming, how are you currently doing it? And if you're not doing it, we have that as an option, right? So if we're not currently, but we want to. So one of the things that Launch makes is a tremendous VCI, right? Vehicle Communication Interface. Our background, the guy that founded our company, his background prior to getting in the scan tool market was in RF technology. So we were one of the first ones to come out with very good, stable VCIs, and that is still true to this day. So our current two top the line ProLine tools, the Throttle 5 and the Torque Link, both come with a J2534 capable VCI. So you own a scan tool, you own a one of those two scan tools, you own a tool that is capable of doing reprogramming. And one of the things that we did for those that don't necessarily have all of the capabilities, so in other words, you have subscriptions to the OEM websites and you have everything that you need to get that done, that's great. But if you don't, we offer a program through Aztec that allows them to do remote programming. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to introduce Ben Johnson, our good friend. He is the Vice President of General Automotive Markets at Repairify. And Repairify is who, is Aztec. Aztec is their brand. So I'm going to let Ben explain the partnership we have with them and how it works. So Ben, welcome. I've seen a lot of you this year. We've been to every trade show together. So welcome.
I know it's unusual to see you virtually. Usually we're in the same place, but thanks so much for having me on, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little about what we're doing with you guys and Aztec. I'm Ben Johnson. I've been in the industry for a long time. I'm not going to go into all that detail or we'd ruin our time here, but wanted to talk today about not only as Eric kind of started pointing out, the increase in need for reprogramming these days as these vehicles become more and more complex. I think you brought up a really good point, which is, as vehicles age, sometimes those components age in ways that the OE might not have understood. But as the vehicle gets older, they come up with different programs, different updates to programs to keep the car performing or the vehicle performing as it should. I've got the slide up here right now. Auto Care Association did a research study a couple of years ago, and in that study, they interviewed, I think it was around 500 shops or something, and they found that over half of those shops were reported needing access to OE diagnostic tools to complete a repair, which is typically reprogramming or parts pairing or something, for at least 20% of their repairs. And that's really, and so the primary way that they were doing that was sending the vehicles back to the dealer. Now we all know we have mobile services and other things now that can do that as well. But the fact is that that's growing at a pretty rapid pace. I bet if we did that survey again now, we'd find out it's even more. And the reasons that are really pushing that are, as Eric said, just the normal wear and tear of the vehicle that couldn't really be comprehended in the test cycles as they're developing a vehicle. We don't have the luxury. It used to be about 6 years from the time a vehicle was in the concept phase to the time it rolled off the production line, and a lot of that was testing. That average time to market has shrunk significantly. And that drives part of this because they just can't test it as thoroughly as they wanted to. And there's so many systems now that are electronically controlled. We hear a lot about battery electric vehicles, but the technology that's been developed to optimize those vehicles are also finding their way into the traditional internal combustion engine and hybrid variants of vehicles. And what we're also finding out is that where they can, the vehicle manufacturers are going to a one physical part that can fit many vehicles. So you might have up in here in the electric power steering, the module that controls that electric power steering might be the same on a Toyota Camry and a Lexus LX something, but you find out, and physically the components may be the same, but the program that runs them is different. So the only differentiating part on some of these components now is the software that runs them. So, because of this proliferation of electronics, licensing OE software and using the J boxes is not completely effective. And you have to just remember where this all came from. The J2534 specification was developed by SAE back around 2000 to 2002. And it was the object was easy. It was like, hey, instead of having 15 or 20 different VCIs, vehicle communication interface boxes, we need one that could fit any OE software and be able to do certain testing on that vehicle. And then in 2004, get my slide to advance here. 2004, the EPA kind of pushed for mandating that. And what they mandated was that all vehicles manufactured had to adhere to J2534 for all emissions-related devices. And as an industry, we didn't think a lot about that little phrase, but it's important because in 2004, pretty much all the modules were emissions-related. It was the powertrain control module, maybe the transmission control module, and a couple of others, but they were probably loosely all controlling somehow the emission systems. And if you look, what the vehicle looks like now, I painted in red around this vehicle the systems that are still cleanly emissions related, and there's a whole bunch that aren't. So the OEs were free to either adopt J2534 across the vehicle, which some of them did. Toyota does a pretty good job of that. And then others said, no, we're going to be adhere to the rules, and all of our emissions-related controllers, the ones that we interpret by the spec of being emissions-related, will support J2534, but we're going to use our proprietary VCIs for the rest. And Ford's a good example of that. I know Ford's never have a problem, never get in the shop, but we hear a lot of people that say they got a J box, and like Eric said, Launch has a great J box. But if you connect that J box to a Ford software package, we hear you can update the powertrain control module and things like that, but you can't update the infotainment module, the HVAC module, some of the other things. So now that is supposed to have changed as of 2018, I believe it was, where they're supposed to make all of the controllers adhere to J2534. We hear mixed stories on how well that's really gone. We know that there are issues, from different J boxes and different OEs and how they interpret that SAE J2534 spec. It's always a kind of a whack-a-mole with the developers trying to keep compliant with all those different systems. But on the collision side, you have a different problem, right? In the collision side, we want to get access to OE tools because many vehicle manufacturers have published position statements saying that they don't trust the aftermarket necessarily, and they can't support a repair where somebody said, hey, I used XYZ tool to do a pre-scan and a post-scan, which are now required by many insurers and OEs before they'll support that repair as being done properly. So and you can see the OE's point in all this. They're saying, hey, I don't know for sure that a brand A device can do everything that my OE tool does, and my OE tool changes every month, just like everybody's aftermarket devices do. I don't know how good a job they do at keeping up with it. So many times on the collision side, even though the launch devices that Eric talked about are great, they can do pretty much anything the OE tool can do. If you want to get paid for that repair, sometimes you have to provide a test report from an OE tool to do that. And here's an example of the General Motors position statement. Here's the area where they say every vehicle should have a pre-scan and a post-scan to make sure that all the electronic systems are healthy when it leaves the shop and goes back into service. And here's the section that says they want to use their GM Techline diagnostic software. So just insert brand here. Toyota wants theirs, Honda wants theirs, Ford wants theirs, et cetera, et cetera. So what we did is we partnered up with Launch. They've been a great development partner to develop. We said we don't want the shop to have to buy another proprietary piece of hardware to do these reprogramming events, to do those things. There's another expense. There's another thing you got to keep updated. If you've already got the great tools that are out there, and as Eric said, the Torque Link, the Throttle 5, and the Auto HD Pro all have this VCI that's capable of connecting to us directly. We can connect those tools now to the factory tool for whatever you're working on, pretty much, in a data center, and just as importantly, to a technician that knows how to run that, because you can imagine what it's like to try to keep up with all the different UIs, all the different little eccentricities that these OE tools have. So you really get both a tech and the product, and then we can help perform whatever you need performed. So none of these are a problem now. And I want to be clear, like I talked about the J2534 and that limitation. When we're connected to a Ford, as an example, because that's the one I used, in our data center, we've connected a computer to the Ford VCI, and that Ford VCI to our Launch complementary product that feeds your shop side VCI. So in that case, we're using the Launch VCI as a pass-through device, not limited to the J2534, I should say. So we can do the programming on the HVAC module, the infotainment systems, and all that. So that's what we've got. And for us to do this, there's no extra hardware needed. There's no additional subscriptions that you need to worry about. We are literally a pay-as-you-go. As long as your launch device is in subscription, you have access to Aztec. There's no sign-up fees. If you never use us, you never get charged. And we think that we're pretty attractive on the pricing, though. We price these services as you would price any other part. So you should be able to, most people that sign up, and we've got well over 1,000 shops now. We've been doing this not really that long in the mechanical side, been doing it in the collision for a long time. I'm going to charge you $100 to do a GM reprogramming event. You should be able to charge $200 for that and still be very, very competitive in your marketplace. We hear stories about dealerships that are charging $300 and up. So plenty of room to mark these up and sell it as a part. So it really doesn't cost you anything. It should just be a convenience of you not having to send the car to the dealer, not having to call and rely on a mobile tech schedule, things like that. So signing up is straightforward because working again with Launch, we've got the Aztec application built into the Launch devices. So it's there already. All you got to do is click on it and you'll launch the Aztec application. And of course, it's looking for you to log in. You won't have a login since you haven't signed up yet. So you select this Create New Account button. And then you're going to want to select Launch. And you're going to get asked some questions like who you are, what your email address is, things like that. And then what will happen is one of our team will reach back to you and get you a service agreement form that says, here's how you're going to pay, your credit card number, whatever, and get you set up in the system. That process can take up to like a day to do. So it's a good idea to do that up front so that when you need us, you're ready for us. The other way you can do it is you can go to aztec.com/mechanical, and here you can find training videos. You can find some more information. You can find the copies of the price lists, all that kind of stuff. and you can sign up here as easily as you sign up from the product. If you'd rather use your computer in a web browser, you can do it that way. Either way, you'll be set up. They'll send you credentials. They'll have you all set up in the system, and we'll talk about it probably again. But when you sign up for Aztec, just to get to know us, we give you the first month for free. So you can try it out for a few times, see if you like it. If you never use it again, you're never going to get charged. But we think it's a pretty attractive service, and we've been growing quite rapidly this year. So once you've connected, here's the trick though. Here's what I've been reviewing all week: reasons why events fail. They don't fail often, but we start to see some trends as to why we aren't able to finish a job once somebody starts it. So, like anything else, a little bit of preparation is key to making sure that you are set up for success as you start using these services. First thing is, we've learned you got to have a good battery in that car. The 12-volt battery has to be good. And you'll see some OEs, they'll tell you if you're working on a hybrid, the high voltage battery, they wanted it like 40, 50% charged too, just to make sure that there's no ripples and that all the signals are clean. Good idea to test the batteries. Guess what? You probably sell a few batteries too. And that's good for you and good for the customer, because if you sell it, that means they needed it. So make sure we got good battery supply to work on, because that's going to help level out any voltage variations, any spikes, any dips. As these things, programming events are happening, sometimes we see spikes in current as they exercise different components. Not sure just why. I'd have to be an automotive engineer to understand that. But trust me, you'll do yourself a favor if you just make sure you got a good, healthy battery. Second thing is, even with a good, healthy battery, make sure you've got a good battery support system in place. This is the launch. It's great. There's a few others out there, but whichever way you do it, make sure you got good battery support. Typically, most manufacturers want at least a 70 amp supply. Some of the Europeans want a 100 amp supply, which tells you what kind of things go on during these reprogramming events that can drain power, and they want to make sure that this is there to stabilize that. It creates a very clean, what they call a sine wave type, a very clean sine wave electrical signal without any AC ripples and things like that. It's important because you got to remember, when we're programming a car, it's not like we're adding, QuickBooks onto a computer. It's like we're loading the operating system onto the computer. And just like with a house, if your power fluctuates while you're installing Windows, you might have a bad day. So we want to do everything we can to make sure that happens the way it should. The third thing is, even though your launch VCI has Wi-Fi capabilities for reprogramming, we want that thing tethered to the Ethernet. And we want that Ethernet cable going into the router that connects you to the internet, not to a router that wirelessly connects you to another router that connects you to the internet, right? Again, anything, reprogramming is kind of an art. It's not, they didn't do it the way I would have done it, but it's the way it is. And what it means is that anything that introduces the opportunity to drop a data packet or something in a Wi-Fi, you put a car up on the lift while it's doing its thing, and that can cause issues. We've had shops with funky mercury lights that cause issues. There's all sorts of things that can happen. If it's tethered, it makes us a lot more confident in the event. Then we connect the VCI to the vehicle. And these are just some screens you should see. When you first power that up, it goes into local diagnostics mode. Now, if you've got that Ethernet connected, it should see this for a few seconds, and it should go to the next screen. If it doesn't, for some reason, you can just click this remote diagnostic mode, and that'll launch it. The next thing it'll do is it'll look to see if there's any updates. Typically, there won't be, but we do updates from time to time. If there is an update, it's best to allow that thing to run. Usually, it's only a couple of minutes, but that way you'll know you've got the latest software, which probably addressed some bugs, maybe added some features. All this is there to help make sure you've got a good, stable connection. And then it will go through this screen, which again, it should just go on by itself. If it doesn't, in a few seconds, you can click the OK button. And then this is the one you're looking for. You should see the read VIN. And then when it sees the VIN up there, that means we're connected. We're connected not only to the car, but we're now connected to the server. So just to show you where we're at, we've got a car that's hooked to the VCI. The VCI is hooked to a router. The router is now hooked, we'll say, because I'm using a Honda for this example, we'll say that car on the left of your screen there is a Honda, and we found an available Honda computer and software package to connect to. Now, you can go to your device, again, select the Aztec icon. You're going to see this message, which if you did everything that we just talked about before you got here, just say yes and don't worry about it. If you haven't, now's the time to do that. Plug everything in, make sure you got on the internet, make sure that VCI is connected. Once you select yes, now our software, you'll come to this page the first time, because now that you've signed up, you should have credentials to put in here. And as long as you click the remember me, the next time you log in, you should bypass this and go right to this, which is now this software is looking up on the internet, and your tablet does want to be Wi-Fi. You got to have the tablet on the internet and the VCI on the internet so that they can both talk to our servers. And now this will last for probably 10 seconds or so, 15 seconds, and then you should see things happening. It's saying up at the top what car I've got connected. It's showing me any reports that have been done on that car in the past. It's allowing me to do a new request. The panel on the left is still refreshing. It'll refresh in about 30 seconds. And what it really does is, in the rare case that you have multiple VCIs, we have some large volume shops that have 2 or 3 VCIs. It'll show all their VCIs and what their status is. And you can control the submission process from any of the 3. Let's say that this one's hooked to a Honda. My other VCI could be hooked to a Mazda. My other VCI could be hooked to a Chevy. I can literally look at all of those and select new requests and manage it from here. But let's not worry about that right now. We just want to select a new request. And we're going to do that. And now it's going to ask us what we want to do. So we have our choices. Most of the time with Aztec Mechanical, we do module programming. That's easily 90% of what you guys ask for when you come into us. Now, we do have some glass shops, and they'll go into calibration, and we can do windshield calibration. If you have the targets, we can help guide you in the setup of those targets, and then we can shoot the calibration with the OE tool. Now, your launch tool is perfectly capable of doing this, so we consider us gap coverage for this kind of stuff. But on some collision shops, they might be working on a car that just came off the dealership for 2027 early model release or something, and launch may not have that right yet in their database. So in that case, since we have the OE tool, if it's in the market, we should have access to it. We can help you out. If you're looking at dynamic calibrations, if you got your tablet or really your VCI hooked to a hotspot and you want to ride around with it, we can actually ride around with it with the OE software and help you do a dynamic as well. Health check is kind of the catch-all. That's for anything else you need. We can, in the collision side, this would be labeled pre-scan and post-scan. It's kind of the same thing. But for aftermarket mechanical shops, many times they'll use a health check. For example, for whatever reason, Audi and Porsche have not released to the aftermarket for certain vehicles the ability to reset the oil maintenance light, right? So Porsche charges $1,500 for an oil change. Well, I know a lot of shops that are using me. They'll charge $800 for an oil change, still make a boatload of money. They call and pay me $50 for a health check, and in the health check, we just go reset that light because we can do that. We've got the factory Porsche tool. So that's kind of what that's for. If you got some operation you're trying to do, you're trying to follow a direction on ALLDATA or Mitchell or the OE software information systems, and you can't figure out how to make the aftermarket software do it, you can come into us. You're $50 away from access to an OE tool. For this purpose, I'm going to show the module program, but we're really going to do a health check, so it'll be fine. Once you've selected something, we ask you for a little bit of information, repair order number, odometer, and this is more for you than it is for us. It's like a record, so that if this car comes back in 3, 6, 9 months, 12 months, whatever, we can look up the history on this vehicle and know what we did to it, what the condition it was in when it left, et cetera, et cetera. So you can put in whatever you want. You can put in the repair order number that your shop's using for their shop management system. You can put in, hey, it's Ben's Honda, whatever you want to do. And then we'd like to know if there's any warning lights. It just helps our techs as they're engaging with your techs to figure out what we want to do. The most important thing here is this preferred method of contact. You can set it up to where we can either give you a phone call, we can text on your personal cell device or what have you, and we have a built-in chat feature in the tablet. They all three work just fine, but we kind of like the text option, and the reason is because once you've got this thing doing a reprogramming event, it could take 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes for a programming event to complete. And we don't need you babysitting that and watching it. We might, text you or contact you to say, hey, we need you to cycle the key or something. But other than that, we want you hanging an alternator on another car, doing brake jobs, whatever it is you can do to be productive and keep making money for you in the shop. So from that perspective, the phone, either text or phone call, kind of makes the most sense. For this demonstration, we're just going to use chat because it's easy and it is pretty cool. It's just that there's not a lot of reason to be carrying that tablet around with you while you're doing other things, since your VCI is tied up on this car. So we can tell them now what we want to do. We can tell them what the history is. Sometimes I'll see stories in here. Well, I replaced this and replaced that, and I'm pretty sure there's a technical bulletin that says I need to reprogram the PCM, whatever that is, just to help our tech get on the same level with your tech to make sure we're doing the right things. Then when I submit that, in this case, I'm doing a Honda. It's telling me basically the same things we already went through. Make sure you got a hardline connection to the router. Make sure you got battery support. It wants the key on and engine off. And in this case, if this was a hybrid, I'd need over 40% charge before it's going to allow me, before the OE software will actually allow me to proceed. I'll click submit. And now we've completed the path, right? Our tablet is now talking to our infrastructure, and we've identified, or we're looking for an available tech. We got about 300 technicians. So usually we can be back online with you within about 10 minutes. Our average is about 7. Sometimes we have peak periods where either all the tools are taken up or all the techs because out of 300 techs, I don't know how many of them actually can work on Hondas. It's not all 300 though, but we want to find a tech that knows that software so that we get you connected to the person that's going to be able to help you. So it may take a few minutes, but usually it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes in that area. And then once he's connected, what we're doing, the screen will look like this now. It actually, where it says health check here, it should say in process, but I don't know. I think I probably grabbed it at the wrong time. But what we're looking for is this chat box. When that has a blue dot appearing, that means I've got a tech on with me and he's got a message for me. So I can just click that. And now it says, okay, his name is Matt and he's connecting. Here's his direct line in case your connection gets broken or if you need to call him or text him directly. He's now getting configured on the OE tool to get a scan started. Now he's advising me to turn the ignition off for 5 seconds and then key it back on. I can interact with him as I want to here. I just said done. And then from that point to this point, this is where I was talking about. You don't have to be around. You can take your tablet with you if you want to communicate that way, or take your phone and go be working. And he'll text you or call you or what have you when he's done. And then you'll come back to a message like this, and it's all complete. Is there anything else that you'd like done? You're going to say whatever you're going to say. But once you're done with that, within a few minutes, in your records button, you should see a repair order. And so this is the repair order that we just did. You can click view and you can view the invoice that you're going to get charged or the report. So if I click invoice here, this is the invoice that's reminding me for this job, for this reprogramming job, which it thinks I did. It's going to charge me $100. That way, I want to make sure that I've charged that I get on the invoice to the customer, whatever that's going to be, 200, 225, 250. So I make sure that I know what my margin is going to be. Now, if I want to look at the report and click that, and this will always have what we found, what we did, any residual trouble codes that might have come back, any recommendations that we may have about running a drive cycle or something like that, whatever the OE information tells us we should advise you to do after this event happens. And it's really pretty much that easy. You can go, I didn't put it all in here, but you can go into records and look up any record that you've ever done. These records here, you can share, you can either email them to yourselves, you can download them to the tablet. You can actually access this whole application online at like app.aztec.com. So you can do this on your web browser too. Look up all the same information, download it right to your hard drive, to your PC, whatever you want to do. So you can print it or attach it to your repair order so it becomes part of the vehicle's repair record. And, we can go a lot deeper, but that's kind of the crux of it. Let's see. Eric, Let me put on my reading glasses. It's horrible to get older here, but looks like we've got a few questions maybe. Will this training be available as a replay? Do we do that, Eric, or has this been recorded? Or I know
it is. Yeah, they do record it, and it can be. I know, and I know there is a rule about a certain amount of time. Let's just call you. I think you might have to wait till tomorrow, but starting tomorrow, it'll be available for a replay. Correct.
Yeah, and I saw that got answered after I asked the question. Let me back up here. Somebody asked about the price list. The price list, you can actually get them. They're online at the aztec.com/mechanical. So you can download those yourselves, or we can, get in touch through Eric or whoever, and we can make those available to you. Trying to just back up here. Didn't realize how many slides I actually had. There we go. So this is the price list. So what this is you see typically the $100 is the base. The $150 is for vehicles that they're either charging us on top of the hundreds of thousands of dollars we're paying for licensing. They charge us a per event charge, which is what's absorbed into that 150. And then BMW is the higher price one, again, European, higher cost to us. So we got to pass that on somewhere. So that's 175. We are in the process of adding more European coverage here. We're looking at Mercedes. It's not there yet. We're kind of touch and go with it. We're still trying to get a good relationship with them, so we like to do things the right way. When it says additional, because that usually gets asked. So let's say I'm working on a Honda, and my Honda is $150, and you see that additional 75. That is mostly for the collision world, where you have a lot of modules that have gotten damaged in an accident. We don't want to charge the shop for all the setup time again. We're set up. Once we've set up, we get the OE tool online. We've done our labor to get that done. We're just going to charge like another 75. So if you had to do the powertrain control module and the transmission control module and reprogram both of them, because both of them got damaged in the accident, you had to replace them, we're going to charge you 150 for one module, 75 for the next. And that's the way that works. You can still decide how you want to deal with that. If you want to pass on that savings to your customers, you can, or if you want to not do that, you can charge $200 times two if you want. We don't really regulate that. I see a price in here.
I see Luke asked that question. He asked, if I do EPS programming in the PCM. So Luke, that I think that answers your question, what Ben just said there. So the additional is every module past that. I mean, if you have to update 5 modules, right? Let's say the first one's 125 and each additional one is 75, it'd be 1 times 125 and then 4 times 75, as a for instance. So
yeah, and I will say there are instances, like I don't know enough about the exact examples, but I know that I've seen some tickets where I think it's on some Ford vehicles, if you update the PCM, it still has to be like re-registered to the car or something. There's another step that has to be done to make it complete. We don't charge for that. If it's not an actual reprogramming event, we'll absorb it. So typically that's the way it works.
And then Mike Muck asked, how is latency addressed?
Right. So latency is typically only a factor if you're on wireless. And so wireless, we just say no to wireless because it's very rare that we find a shop that has a latency that is acceptable. We like latency less than, I forget what it is, less than 40, whatever the measurement is, milliseconds or something. Hardwired, as long as it's a true hardwire, we never have a problem. And so what we really look at is the RTT, the round trip time, and we like that to be less than 100 milliseconds. Typically, we find out that it's like 10 to 40. So typically that's fine. We do once in a while have a shop that just, for whatever reason, they're out in the burbs and you don't have a great internet service. And we've had a couple that, we're not for everyone. But usually they can figure that out and get it done.
And the danger in that, right, Ben, is that you could possibly brick the module, right?
Right. That is and let's talk about that for a minute. If you guys follow our directions, if you've hey, we got a good battery. We got good battery support. We got good hardwired Ethernet. Our guys can look at that RTT numbers and stuff, and if it's really bad, they'll say, I don't feel good about taking this on. This is probably not the best idea. But once they've committed and said we're in, if something happens and that module bricks, we're going to cover that. We're going to take care of it. We're going to make sure the car gets back on the road. That's our commitment to you guys. And I'm very thankful to say on a launch device, we have yet to. I think I bought one module, but it wasn't launch's fault. It was one of our techs, just like the techs in the field. These guys are cowboys, and they just really want to fix the car. But when we look back at the record, it had all kinds of codes about non-communication and this and that, and they went and it shouldn't have ever been attempted, I guess is what I'm saying. The car wasn't healthy enough to accept a programming event. They took it on. We ended up, and I don't even think we bricked it. I think we were able to get on site and recover it. But either way, if we're working together and you guys are doing the right things, we'll make sure you get the car done.
So Paul Durbin asked a question here. How would I know that there are additional costs prior to programming for my customer pricing? So I guess if it needs that extra additional module.
That's really a good question. I mean, I would say for mechanical shops, it's been very, very rare that we have an additional charge. It's more a collision thing, because usually in a reasonably bad collision, typically multiple modules can be impacted, literally. But on the mechanical side, I'm out of probably, we do about 800 jobs a month. If one has an additional charge, I'm surprised. It's very rare. Now, you can say, hey, to our tech, when you're online, say, do you think, is this car going to require an additional charge? And they can probably give you guidance on that. Well, for these Fords, sometimes I got to do this. If I did, that's another $75, whatever. But that's about, there are times when we get into a job and we're like, hey, we did the programming you asked for. I'm seeing a TSB, a service bulletin on this vehicle, and it looks like your powertrain control module is not up to date either. If you'd like to do that, we'll do it. If you don't, we won't. So it may be an upsell opportunity where you can go back to your customer and say, hey, I'm doing this. Your job is complete, but there's a bulletin that says we should update the ECM for the powertrain control module because of something, whatever that bulletin was about. So sometimes you can get into that situation, but then it should be pretty collaborative, and you can decide whether you want to take that on or not.
So it looks like there's two questions I think I need to answer. So Luke, is this the same tool Mac Tool sells as it's on my list for school this year? So the part number for the Mac Tools product that would qualify for this is the ET9150, Luke. That is essentially the equivalent of the Torque Link that Launch makes. We manufacture that tool for Mac Tools, and Aztec is one of the options on that particular tool. Yes. Paul Durbin, how would I get a demo in my area? Well, Paul, we sell through distributor partners, right? So that includes Matco, Mac, Cornwell, in addition, Napa, Advance Auto. I know most of the Napa tool and equipment reps actually have Throttle 5 demo tools. I believe Advance Auto Parts the same way. Your mobile tool guys, they own their own businesses. If they have a demo, that's kind of up to them. In some cases, most of their flags offer them the opportunity to buy a demo at a very reduced cost, but not all of them do. They do also have diagnostic reps that work for the tool companies that usually have the ability to get out there and do a demo. So, I'm not trying to push you to one or the other, right? They're all of our partners. But if you like the Matco guy better or the Cornwell guy better, maybe reach out to him and ask, and I'm sure they can do that. If not, the parts guys as well. And then Greg, what is the charge if you're unable to successfully complete programming?
What is the charge if you're unable to successfully complete programming? The charge is zero. We're not going to charge you if we can't meet the objective. We're not going to charge you. I was looking at that 30189 that's in Cherokee County, Georgia. I was going to say if it was close by, I'd come, but I'm in San Diego, so sorry. I'm not usually in Cherokee County. But yeah, if we can't do it, we're not going to charge you. And oh, by the way, I hope I think I said it, but when you sign up, like, what is it today? It's the 10th, right? June 10th. If you signed up tomorrow, if you have your launch device already and you said, wow, this sounds pretty cool, I want to try it. If you sign up today or tomorrow, you'll get the way it's a quirk really because of our financing systems. You would get the balance of June for free, and you would get all of July for free, and you wouldn't start being charged until August 1. So you got plenty of time if you use the system right. Now, having said that, I really hope you don't wait until you have a car in your bay to reprogram before you sign up, because the sign up process itself, like if you sign up and it's 4 o'clock our time for the team that's in Texas to get you set up, they're going to have to send you back a service agreement, and that's where they'll collect your payment information and how you want to pay for it once you do go on the pay plan. And that sometimes can take like overnight to get that done. And people just call me all the time livid because they're like, I've got a car in the bay, I need to program it. And we're like, you should have signed up, So don't hesitate, and bring in your family's cars or whoever, and any other business you can drum up. And like I said, even when you go on the pay plan, you're going to be making money on everyone anyway. So
yeah, it's a trial period that Aztec has partners with us to get you familiar and comfortable with the system. So you can go ahead and you can just sign up for it. And I mean, listen, you could program. I mean, I don't know if you can physically do 10,000 cars, but there is no limit in that time frame to getting those cars programmed. And again, you may even want to, like Ben was saying, pull in your car, your sister's car, your aunt's car, just to test it out, see if there's programs available to fix things and things like that. So there is no monthly fee. It is a pay by the programming cost. So when you sign up, it doesn't start hitting your credit card until you actually program a car. After the trial period, there is no charge. It is per use. So
yeah,
Luke, I see your question about the updates. Yeah, some of the vendors have different deals, or they sell it. I know Mac was selling one with like a longer update period because guys are, and the reason why they're doing it is they're typically financing the tool through the mobile. And if your tool expires after 1 year, right, and you're still making payments on it, essentially it's a really nice expensive doorstop. So they sell you the 5 years of updates for free, or I'm sorry, not for free, upfront to allow you that as you're making the payments, right? It'd kind of be like if you bought a new car and they said, it's only going to work for a year, but after that, and you stop making payments, right? It's a useless piece of thing. So that's the reason why that's done through the mobile sometimes versus the parts jobbers.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say, as you're looking through these, from our perspective, from the Aztec perspective, any of them that have that VCI are going to work fine. They're going to do great. So really, it's up to you to figure out which package, the way that Mac packages, the way that Matco packages, the way that Napa might bundle something, the way AutoWares or whoever else might do it. There may be a package that works best for the way your shop runs. So whichever one you think is best from our perspective, it doesn't really matter. The promo's the same, the pricing's the same. Just get the product that best meets your needs, and we'll be there for you. And I see Juan, I see your question. We do not currently support heavy duty Class 8 trucks. We could. The VCI is capable of it, but if you follow that heavy duty market, those heavy duty guys they make the auto people look like puppy dogs as far as licensing and our ability to do that. The heavy duty OEs are not at all on board. I'm not sure. I think that the Repair Act has to happen or something like that to probably bring them to the negotiating table. Otherwise, we could do it. We just don't, because it's impossible to get the OE software in our data center to use. They don't let us do it. That's the only reason why.
And if I'm correct, it isn't also part of that, Ben, is that that market hasn't standardized the connector yet. So you have all the different various connectors. There's no standard 16 pin.
I think most of the more modern vehicles are on that J1939 connector now, but yeah, they had probably still some 1708s out there, probably a few. So yeah, I don't. They're definitely not as standardized as the light vehicle market for sure.
Correct.
We do handle all the way up to like the 3500s and stuff like that. You know, if it's got an OBD cable on it, we can generally support it.
Any other questions? I will say one thing about this tool. I mean, I have done my own programming for many and many years, but at this point, this is how I do it, and the reason is just efficiency, right? Aztec's handling it, right? I mean, if you're doing programming on a car, you're usually kind of wanting to monitor it and doing things like that to make sure nothing happens and the battery doesn't drop or whatever and blah 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 blah. And you're kind of like stuck with your hands in your pocket and there's really not much you can do. Nowadays, with this program, they're handling it, right? I'm going over here and I'm doing a brake inspection, or I'm doing maybe a repair that just got approved. I sold a mass airflow sensor in the car. I'm going to pop that in. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to start recharging an air conditioning system for a job that's sold. So when you talk about efficiency, you're making money working on two cars, even though you're really only working on one. Aztec's doing the job there behind the scenes on that car that you're going to get paid for, and it is no problem to mark up what they charge to the customer. I recently had a customer bring their car to me. It was a Ford, and they had paid $375 to the dealer to program. So at $100 to you, and then being able to mark it up from there, you can definitely compete in that game. It is a revenue producer for you for sure. If you're not doing it, you need to find a way into this market. I was looking at the poll question. If you haven't answered, if you want to answer the one, it seems like we were, for a while there, we were even thirds. How are you doing programming? In-house, we're doing it. Our staff, our equipment. Outside, we got mobile techs coming in. And then a third of you, it looked like one vote dropped it down a little, but it was almost a third, are not doing it at all, but they want to. So, it's kind of the easy button, right? You don't have to go out and you don't have to maintain all those subscriptions or pay by the car, which is very expensive, if you don't have the monthly GM subscription, they charge you by the car. And these guys got all that stuff behind the scenes. They have the experts that are OEM experts. When you're trying to program a Porsche, the guy that's going to be programming that Porsche isn't going to be his first attempt at a Porsche, right? He's going to be a guy that's doing that. Sorry, Ben.
Yeah, and I'll just say, for people, I talk to a lot of people. Believe it or not, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but there's a percentage of shops that I talk to them. I'll be at an industry conference or something. And they're like, oh, we license it all. We've got it all. I'm like, good for you if that's what you want to do. But usually if you talk to the guy that's not the guy talking to me, he's like, it's a pain in the butt. It's like, I got to keep all these, because it's like you might do a lot of programming, but you're only doing like programming on Toyota, for example, once every couple of weeks or something. And every time you fire it up, there's always an update available for it. So you got to wait for that. There's always some, configuration. You got to find the right cables, the right VCIs, the right this, the right that. And so, but what I tell people is that, hey, if you're doing a ton of like GM programming and you've got the GM VCI and you've got all that, good for you. And if you're comfortable with that, that's great, but you probably don't always have Subarus. And so a lot of people use us for gap coverage, right? So, hey, I'm not going to give up my GM sub because I use it all the time. And I think that's fine. But use us then for the things that aren't so popular, the things that it doesn't make sense for you to maintain a subscription and a computer and all that stuff. And we can, we do a lot of that. I had one shop. It was really funny, Eric. I don't remember if you were there or not. It was at Apex. The guy was talking to me, and he's one of these guys. I've got it all. I do this, and his son actually was there. He goes, Dad, we really don't have it all. We got like GM, Ford, Toyota. We don't do like Subaru. We don't do like Honda. We don't do. He goes, oh, and then he signed up because he had the Throttle 5, and he called me like 2 or 3 months later. He goes, you know what? I canceled my subscriptions because this just makes too much sense. So, but I'm not even whatever works best for you and your business case and the way your shop runs. We're there to support as little or as much as you need, and we look forward to working with Eric and Launch more and doing more of these. We've been growing quite a bit on this mechanical space, and it's all because of that relationship.
So Luke is asking, he's an instructor at an automotive school. He wants to know if your techs would like walk them through what's happening as they're programming. I guess if they're on the phone, right, as opposed to text, I guess he could kind of explain a little.
Yeah, I mean, Luke, I don't want to commit to it because like I'll get yelled at if we're in a really busy day or something. But if what we do, like for example, next week I'm going to be in a training session myself, so I'm going to have my tech, I'm going to have a tech like online scheduled to go on like a Teams call with me, like a call kind of like this, a Teams or a Zoom or what have you, and I will do exactly that because it's fairly boring to demo this. I mean, you saw it kind of. I submit, I answer a couple questions, and then I wait. Right? That's it's kind of a boring experience. But in that case, if we're using especially a personal computer, which then we can broadcast to a big screen and stuff, and we get them on a Teams call, I flip the video to his computer desk so you could have watched him do the Honda update using the Honda tool. So those are possible. It's just we probably want some you probably won't be able to do that ad hoc because if he's busy, you got to remember these techs are sometimes working on 4 cars at the same time. So they got one's being reprogrammed, so they got it kind of they're monitoring it. They've got another one they're just starting a programming event. They've got another one that's finishing a programming event, and they need to cycle the key. So it's not just one-to-one. They're doing somewhere between 1 and 4 vehicles at any given time on their end. But that all said, I'm sure we can work something out.
Yep. All right. Well, Ben, I can't thank you enough. I even get smarter every time I listen to you. It's always a pleasure to have you, to meet with you, to see you, even virtually. Thanks for joining and helping us out today. Hopefully you guys got something out of this, and we can show you, just another revenue source and another productive way to do business. Are there any last questions before I let Ben go and we end the call? Again, if you did not see, if you wait 10 minutes after the end of this and you were registered or register for the thing, you can watch a replay of this webinar. If there's something you think you missed or you think there's someone else that wanted to watch this. And again, thanks a lot. Next month, second Wednesday in July. Haven't figured out the topic yet. It'll probably be figured out by Friday. But we'll have another great topic for you next month.
Well, thanks for having me on, Eric. I really appreciate it. And you guys can get through to Eric there. And if he needs me, he knows how to find me.
Yep. Yeah. So if you were afraid to ask a question on this call, or you think of something later down the line, you don't have to remember something complex. I actually created this email, techquestions@launchtechusa.com. It will come directly to my inbox so that you don't have to remember my last name and any of that stuff. I have a very difficult last name. But techquestions@launchtechusa, and I'll respond to you. I will answer your question for you, I promise. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. Go make some money. So.
Yeah.